graduate students, environmentalists, professionals, policymakers, agricultural practitioners, and all participants who have joined us today with an interest in sustainable development, soil science, environmental conservation, and ecotourism innovation. Welcome to the public webinar titled From Reddish Brown Earth Tropical Peats, Leveraging Sri Lanka's Soil Landscape Diversity for Ecotourism Innovation, organized by the Agriculture and Forestry Section B of SLAS. We are deeply honored to have Emeritus Professor Ranjith Mapa as our distinguished resource person in this evening. Professor Mapa obtained the bachelor's degree from University of Peradeniya in 1975 and PhD in soil physics from University of Hawaii in 1984. Subsequently, he joined the Faculty of Agriculture, University of Peradeniya as a lecturer and retired as a senior professor in soil science after 31 years of service, and presently is an emeritus professor. He was elected a fellow of the National Academy of Sciences of Sri Lanka and served as president of SLAS Section B and Soil Science Society of Sri Lanka. During his sabbatical leave, he served as a visiting professor at the Department of Civil, Environmental and Agricultural Engineering, University of Colorado, Director of Academic Studies at General Sir John Kothawala Defence University, and visiting lecturer at the Department of Applied Statistics, University of Reading. Professor Mapa received several prestigious recognitions, including International Partnership Award from the Agriculture Institute of Canada, the SLAS GRC Award, the CARP Award for Excellence in Agricultural Research, and Presidential Awards for Scientific Presentations from the NRC. He worked as the team leader of the Sri Lanka-Canada Soil Resource Project, funded by SIDA in morphology, characterization, and classification of soil and wet, intermediate, and dry zones of Sri Lanka. Edited 7 books on soil of Sri Lanka and developed a digital database for 119 benchmark sites in Sri Lanka. He also edited the World Soil Series book, The Soils of Sri Lanka, published by Springer International, which is the only international book published on soils of Sri Lanka. Professor Mapa has published about 30 research papers in reputed journals, book chapters, and served in many editorial boards. After retirement, he worked for 5 years as the project monitoring consultant for the target-oriented projects at the National Research Council of Sri Lanka. We are indeed privileged to have Professor Mapa with us this evening to share his valuable insights on Sri Lanka's unique soil landscape diversity and its emerging opportunities for ecotourism, innovation, and sustainable development. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, I want to share the slides. Can I see them now properly?
Yes, sir.
Hear me?
Yes, we can.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Nishadi. I am very much delighted to participate in this webinar series organized by the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science, Agriculture and Forestry section. So today we will talk about From Reddish Brown Earth to Tropical Peats, leveraging Sri Lanka's soil landscape diversity for ecotourism innovation. So as we all know, Sri Lanka is listed as one of the 34 biodiversity hotspots of the world. And Sri Lanka has the highest biodiversity per unit area among Asian countries. So in a very small country, to have such diversity is a real advantageous position. And when we talk about the biodiversity, we know different species require different soil conditions to thrive. And therefore, it's better to talk about environmental diversity because the biodiversity, soil diversity, and even geological and hydrological diversity these are all interconnected. We cannot say because diversity of soils, there is biodiversity. So these are all interconnected. And when we talk about soil diversity, it's different soil types found within a country or within a given area. But not much references could be found on soil diversity because other than soil scientists, others think soil is a non-living non-living system. So we have to know that about 90% of all land-based species live in the soil, but not on it, which shows the biodiversity that you could find inside the soils. Now, when we talk about the soil diversity, more than 122 soil groups or soil series have been identified and documented in Sri Lanka. So if we take the one of the most commonly used soil classification systems, soil taxonomy, which has 12 soil orders at the first level. 6 of these soil orders are found in Sri Lanka within the 65,000 square kilometers. So what I'm going to get at is in a small country or in a small area, any visitor can see 6 of these major soil orders in our country. Now, when we talk about the soils, we all know soils are formed from weathering of the rocks, which forms parent material, and this parent material has to weather further and mix with the organic matter and to form soil. So the soil has part of mineral matter which came from the decomposition of the rock, and also it has the organic matter which came from plant and animal origin. So when we look at the soil behavior from the agricultural point of view, the finer particles are the ones which are most important because we are looking at retaining of the nutrients and also retaining of water and how well roots can penetrate into the soil, how well water can infiltrate into the soil. For all these finer particles, which are the clay particles, came from the mineral matter. Those are particles less than 0.002 millimeters in diameter, and organic matter are also finer particles, and they mostly determine the soil behavior. There are many factors responsible for soil formation from the rocks or parent material, climate, topography, vegetation, and time. So these factors responsible for soil formation, they act on the rock or parent material at different intensities, and therefore different soils are formed. And some of these factors, like climate, are long. They form long range diversities, and some of these factors, like topography, they form short-term diversity in the soils. So if you look at first at the geological map of Sri Lanka, which is showing the diversity of the rocks. So as you could understand, when there's diversity of the rocks, the soils formed from these different rocks will be, of course, very different. For example, if we take the Miocene limestone in our northern area, and the soils from Miocene limestone will be different from the soils formed from the middle of the country from plinthite or laterite parent material. So the diversity is formed due to the differences of these soil forming rocks, and also those diversity are long range or at higher distances. In the next, if we look at the climate, we know the wet zone soils are very much different to the dry zone soils because one of the major climatic factors is the rainfall, which affects the soil formation. So those differences are reflected in these different zones, and in much more detail if you look at the agroecological region map, which has 46 agroecological regions, and each of these regions having uniform soil ecological conditions, and soils formed are also at long range diversity because these units are certain distances away. Then when we consider topography, of course, when in the lands where at the higher points, well-drained soil will be formed, as you all are aware, and in the valleys, poorly drained soils are formed. So there is diversity formed due to topography, but they are short range because it's in a close by distances, and the all the topographic classes are found in Sri Lanka. For example, if you look at the flat terrain around our Jaffna area or around Puttlam area, even these very slight depressions will create different drainage conditions. So at the crest, the well-drained different soil will form, and in the imperfectly drained area, a different soil will form, showing the diversity due to topography. If we come more some more insight to the north central province, where the undulating terrain, it's a little bit higher slope, so you can find many drainage classes like three drainage classes here, and well drained, imperfectly drained, and poorly drained, and they will also form different soils because this topography or terrain is also related to the water table position and also fluctuation uh, of water table. So these things show that the importance of terrain and the topographical conditions. For example, if you look at the agroecological map in more detail, and if you look at any given agroecological region, where all the other factors like climate and other things are very similar, but still in any of these agroecological regions, you will find more than one soils because due to the terrain or topographic conditions forming soil diversity in short range. So these things show the importance of topography or terrain, and therefore when we uh, study or discuss about the soils, it's not sufficient to talk only about the soil or soil profile, but we will have to combine it with the landscape. So that is why my topic today is soil landscapes, because these are all has to be looked together in a higher position where the drainage is good, a different soil is formed, and in the valley where the drainage may be poor, a different soil is formed. And with the landscapes coming in, the slope factor come in, and that is where the drainage also start affecting this diversity of different soils. So to move further, let us look at the how soils of Sri Lanka are named. The most widely used soil map was proposed by D. Alvis and Panaboke in 1972, where if you look at the legend, the mapping units are what are called the soil associations. And as you can see here, soil associations are a collection of many units. Those are the great soil groups. And you can see in each mapping unit, more than one great soil group is occurring, because at the scale of 1 million, we cannot separate the topographical diversity. But of course, this is very good work in 1972. Now, after 55 years, the soil scientists have moved forward. And if we are getting the international scientists, we need to cater for other taxonomic systems. So in this 1972 system, a great soil group is defined. If you look at the soil profile, the soil scientists divide this soil profile into different layers or horizons. So the major horizons are called like ABC, and each major horizon could be divided into sub-horizons like 1, 2, 3, and some of them will have special characteristics to give this kind of simple English letters. So great soil group is having the same sequence of these genetics horizons in the soil profile, and in the handbook that comes with this map, it describes what are the sequences that are needed. So after 55 years now, we need to go forward. And if we are going to cater to foreign soil scientists in these ecotourism programs, we need to come into the international system so that we can communicate with them. And therefore, the two international systems widely used are introduced, which is the soil taxonomy and WRB region of the FAO. And all these names have Latin or Greek formative elements. And also, we need to introduce the term soil series. So, like the great soil group, soil series have the same sequence of genetic horizons. What we call as genetic horizons are naturally made horizons, not man-made layers. So, having the same sequence and developed or formed from similar parent material. Because when we go to agrotechnology transfer, that means to transfer our research recommendations to other soils, we can only transfer that knowledge to similar soils elsewhere. So the soil series is a unit that we can use for land use planning, can be used for agrotechnology transfer, because if many students are listening today, you all should understand the research recommendations you obtain from a given soil is not applicable to all the soils of Sri Lanka. It will be applicable only to the similar, only to the similar soils elsewhere. So that is where the soil series coming. And normally soil series are named according to the place it was first discovered, like Agalawatha series by Rubber Research Institute, or we have characteristic property of those soils like Magura series we will use today for peat soil. So these kind of identification and naming has to be done by experienced soil scientists. So if for this agro technology tours, we'll have to use this international soil classification names for uh, have to communicate with the international soil scientists. Now, this 1972 soil map has been now expanded to three maps, wet zone, intermediate zone, and dry zone. And these maps were constructed using data from 122 benchmark sites. A benchmark site is a place where we can see the average characteristics of a soil series and where the GPS location is recorded, and the soil profile is dug in that benchmark site. Then soil profile is characterized and samples are collected for soil physical and chemical analysis, because those has to be used for classification in this soil taxonomy or in the WRB region. So for all these three rainfall zones, soil information is available for 122 benchmark sites, which we can use for this kind of ecotourism programs to show to the foreign or whoever delegates that come. Of course, 122 is a very high number, and therefore we have to select few characteristic soils from these. And as you can see, these showing those benchmark areas throughout the country. These are from two different publications where people use this database for their mathematical modeling work, but you can see we have a very good distribution of these benchmark sites. So information is available for all these benchmark sites, and we will select according to the topic that I talked about, okay, from reddish brown earth soils to peat soils. So I have selected 8 great soil groups from these 122 databases that we are already having. And the basis I have used is because we talked about there are 6 soil orders of soil taxonomy. So we selected these great soil groups to match with each of these soil taxonomic orders that found in our country. So reddish brown earth soils, they belongs to the Alphisols order. Europod solic soil grade soil group belongs to altisols order. Immature mountain loam soils belongs to inceptisol order. Then these two calcic red lat soils and acid sulfate soils. These are the two of them because we want to show the special characters. Belongs to lenticel order. The grumosols belongs to vertisol order, and the peat soils belongs to histosol order. So this is how these great soil groups belongs to the 6 soil taxonomic orders found in Sri Lanka. Then from them, we decided on these soil series. For alphisols, Metavaccia series. For altisols, Matakale series and Horton series, because we want to show some of the major differences there. For inseptisols, Mavanella series. For entrisols, Inuvial series and Palato series. For vortisols, Murunkan series, and for histosols, the Bagura series. So these are the soil series selected, and that was the basis that we selected these soil series for this ecotourism tour so that we can cover in a given time. So these are those soils as shown the distribution. I'm not going to talk about these names again, and I will assume you all as a ecotourism group, and I will take you through these soils in a very short time. So we'll start from number 1, that is the reddish brown earth soils. And here I have used different colors, the 1972 classification, great soil group, reddish brown earth soils. And I have to say, most of the time, the color of the soil used in the classification, the international classification for taxonomy is used, and alphisol order. Then at the subgroup level, this can be classified as typic protostals and Madhavaccia series, because that is where it was first found and named in that manner. So when we look at this soil, this is the major dry zone soil, and in our country more than about 1/3 of these soils, and these are weathered soils because for a long time has been subjected to rainfall and other climatic factors. And as I told you before, the subsoils shows reddish brown color. That is why it's named as reddish brown earths. And of course, as these are weathered soils, they show around 50% base saturation around that, because the exposure to rainfall has leached some of the bases like calcium and magnesium out from the soil. And also because these are weathered soils, when we look at the clay, there is about 25 to 30% clay in these soils. But most of the clay are kaolinitic clay, which is these are clays with low activity, and very few traces of high activity clay, which we call as monomonitic clay. So those things show that these have low retention of plant nutrients, and a special character we found in these soils is this gravel layer in the subsoil, where the participants can observe how a gravel layer is resisting penetration of roots, resisting infiltration of water, and creating perched water tables. So most of them could be observed, and this is one of the major dry zone soils we want to show them. Then from there, we will move to the radiopodsolic soils. These are in altisol soil order in soil taxonomy, typic haplodults. And this is Matakale series around Taravakale, first found and named. And of course, you can see this is also one of our major wet zone soils, and this is of course more weathered than our dry zone soil shown earlier, because in the wet zone there is rainfall throughout the year. So red yellow color, as we talked about before the naming of the great soil group, and because it's exposed to much more rainfall throughout the year, it is much more leach, so base saturation is low, these soils becoming acidic. And most of these are tea growing soils, as tea is a crop which can withstand these acidic conditions. And of course, in the clay part, it's mostly low activity clays, because it's much more weathered than dry zone soils, and therefore low retention of nutrients. So this is the major wet zone soil we like to show to the participants. And from there we can go up to the northern area, calcic red lattisols. This is taxonomic entry-soil order, typic and Astrothens, and first found in Inuit in Jaffna area. And many characters that we like to show them. First is that the soil is developed from calcic parent material, calcium carbonate, but there are also some iron oxides in this parent material, and that is why the soil shows this characteristic red color. And also, as it's in entry-soil order, you can see it's a deep soil, and of course, young soil, so it does not show any horizon differentiation. Not easy to look at these different layers or different horizons because they are yet to develop, but it has a good soil resource. We can see even roots penetrated up to 1 meter. So because there is enough good depth of soil with proper fertilizer and water management, it's a good soil for agriculture production. And then we will move into the Mana area where the grumusols create soil group. And in soil taxonomy, it's vertisols, acidic dendroaquens, and first recognized in Murunkan series. This is a special soil which very much differences into the other soils we saw. It has the highest clay content among Sri Lankan soils because other soils about 20 to 30% of clay. And also this dominated by high activity clays. That is the monomorphic clay. Therefore, this soil have high nutrient retention. Now you can see this is the Vavar basin of Murunkan where paddy is grown, and very good yields could be obtained under irrigated paddy because most of the nutrients that is added will be retained in the soil without leaching. But because of this monomorphic clay, this soil swells in wet and also shrinks when it is dry, and it is causing this vertical cracks. So this vertisols means vertical cracks in the soil profile. And also when it is dry, it's very hard, so only can grow something like paddy with irrigation, because with water, the soil becomes soft. And this is also a special soil that could have a lot of industrial uses if this clay could be separated for things like paints and all that. And also this is sometimes used for cricket pitches. If you are watching IPL now, you will see most of the Indian grounds now, they talk about a red soil pitch and a black soil pitch. And depending on opponent, they have a chance to pick any of these pitches. And the differences is not with the color, the clay and the clay mineralogy in those soils. The soil which has high monomorphic or this high activity clays have higher bounce. So in places like South African pitches, they have this higher bounce from this kind of clay. So this has many uses and also industrial uses. And from there, we will move into the Horton plain side, red yellow podzolic soils with prominent A horizon. And these are also artisans, typic haplohumans, first recognized in the Horton series. And as you can see here, this is just the roadside of inside the Horton Plains Park, which has a dark A horizon. Because of the cold climate, the organic matter is not decomposed fast by the microorganisms. Therefore, organic matter collects, but should not be deceived from this color. Organic matter is still around 10 to 12%. So these soils don't qualify to be peat soils or histosoils in soil taxonomy. So because Horton Plains is in a conservation area, we will not be able to cut any soil profiles, but in the adjoining Ambevela farm, you will find same kind of soils, so we can use that in the ecotourism tour. And from there, we will move into the immature brown loam soils in Marvanal area. This is insecticide order, unique astropeps, and first found in Marvanal. And these are immature soils, and therefore you find some amounts of monolithic or high activity clay. And another characteristic is these soils are formed from parent material rich in mica. So when this rock of the parent material weathers, this mica is released to the soils. So in fertilizer recommendations by the Rubber Research Institute, they cut down 50% of the potassium from these soils. Now, the major attraction of this soil, what we want to show the ecotourism group, is this cambic horizon. So, like in trees, we talk about the cambium uh, always developing xylem layers in the soil. Also, we call this cambic horizon because you can very clearly see this wave structure showing the B horizon or intermediate horizon being developed from the parent material. So that is another characteristic, and that we can see in the insecticidal order. We like to show the ecotourism group, and from there we will move into the south to show the acid sulfate soils. It's a very special soil that also is found in the is special soil that also found in the Vietnam and other countries. It belongs to Indisol order, typic sulfur aqueous, and first found in Palato area. So in this Palato series, this is in the Nilwala floodplains. These soils, the specialty is they are rich in iron sulfide minerals, and therefore when the soil in the soil we can see this yellow color jarosite mottles, which is this iron sulfide minerals. And when the soil is saturated, of course, they will be there. But if the soil is drained, these iron sulfide minerals will oxidize into dilute sulfuric acid, and these soils become very acidic subsoils like pH around 2 and the topsoils to about 3.5. And that is why you see in this region big drainage project going on to keep the soils in a suitable moisture level. And we will move to the last soil we want to show is the peat soils, which is called the bog soils, and it's histosols in the soil taxonomic area, and we call it Bagura series, as I told you before. Sometimes we use some of the characters of this place. So these are the marshy lands, so that is why it's called Bagura series, and we find this in Kalutar area and in Muthuraja well. So the specialty is the organic matter is high, around 30 to 40%, because the drainage is poor again. The anaerobic, there is more anaerobic microorganisms than the aerobic microorganisms. So they can only cannot decompose the organic matter faster. So they get accumulated, and to call them some of the areas and as peat. So peat is a very scarce resource in the world because this is used for as the medium for inoculants. And of course, what we do is we go and dump other soil on our peat resource and fill it for other purposes. So these are the soils that we are going to take the ecotourism group in this plan tour. And of course, they will be provided with this soil forms that they could fill in, so they will get the chance as they like to get into the soil profiles, feel them, examine them, and fill up these soil charts where they will have to identify the different layers, horizons, name them, and they can also uh, record the color and other features like texture by feel, because the experience of scientists can up to certain level. Uh, estimate the clay content of the soil by feeling the soil and also the clay type, whether it's kaolinitic or monolithic type, depending on the stickiness. So they will have time to get into the soil profile and look at them and record the observations in this sheet and also note the GPS location because the group can relate it to the soil maps at a later stage. And for this soil classification exercise, this morphological features that you see in the profile is not enough. They have to be provided with physical and to classifying according to the system. So in the database, we have data sheets for these 120 files. So we can provide this database in the handbook that we are going to give them, where they will have the soil description sheets and where they will have the data sheets related to that soil site. And also they will have hard copies of the soil maps. So by recording this EPS location, they also can look at the hard copies and have details of the soil series that they have been observing. So these are the background material that always can be provided to these groups. And as I have shown you, these are the tropical soils. Okay, from the database, we selected the typical tropical soils from the 122 soils. And of course, these were selected thinking of about a 7-day tour, but more soils could be included for an extended tour. And these are not new things. You all know at one time the tourists could only visit the tea factory and looked how tea is made. But now there is ecotourism companies having ecotourism in tea gardens. The tourists can go and mix with the tea pluckers and experience how the tea is plucked. They can also go and experience how a tea bush is pruned than just looking at the tea garden. So these are already in place, and soil science societies like British Society of Soil Science have this kind of organized tours. And in Sri Lanka also, when the East and South East Federation of Soil Science meetings are held, once in every 7 years, the Soil Science Society of Sri Lanka has organized similar tours because this information is available. So what we have to keep in mind is there is a lot of demand for these tours on tropical soils, so that we need to make an attractive flyer to attract foreign consultants because there are a lot of projects that going on in tropical soils where foreign consultants are interested in getting some experience on tropical soils. But also, you will understand it's trying just to get these people and show only the soils, no? Because in this beautiful country, there are many other things we can see. So that is why not only soil, I can now fill this other column of my table. So with all these great soil groups, we can associate them with the ecotourism destination. So while they are, after they have finished looking at these soils, then of course in the dry zone, reddish brown earth area, there are dry zone forests, elephant corridors, and major irrigation schemes. They will be very interested to look at our Yodel, the irrigation channels at a distance of 1 mile, only a drop of 1 inch in the irrigation channel. So many things that they can see. In the wet zone, Talwakale area, can look at the tea gardens and of course Horton series near to Horton Plains, and it's a very popular eco-tourism destination. Then immature brown loams in Mavanal area. Of course, elephant orphanage is nearby. And Inuit series in Jaffna, they can look at Jaffna limestone and this karst landscape and some cultural and geotourism in Jaffna area. In the Palato series, acid sulfate soils, as I told, is in Nilwala Plains, and there is a big project which was earlier funded by the Dutch government, where how the water is managed in these Nilwala Plains to keep these acid sulfate soils that could be used for agriculture. The Gomu soils in Morunkan, Mana area, very much near to the Madu Road and Madu Church, and the peat soils, Magura series seems very uh, to Rajavela. Already there are organized tours of wetland bird watching and marsh trails and like that. So we can always integrate these things, and there are many companies doing helping in this. That is why I just want to show about that the soil information is available. There are many tour companies. If you give them the itinerary, they will plan the traveling, and they have hotel chains which give group rates, cheaper group rates, so that kind of uh, connections could be established with them. So this is my last slide, and these are the references that I have used in this study. And also I have to acknowledge few people, Mr. Anil Dasanaik, Mr. Rupert Silva, and Dr. Asoka Senrat from their former specialist officers of the land use of the irrigation department, and Dr. LLW Somasiri, formerly from the Coconut Research Institute, and late Dr. S. Somasiri from the Natural Resource Management Center, because these officers, they had experience working in the field for the Mahavali project, and their experience in identifying the soil series was very useful, because if you identify the same soil series, we have to give the same soil name. So I acknowledge their support. Then also, this project was supported by Canada International Development Agency through the Sri Cancer project from the Soil Science Society of Sri Lanka. And all the data that is collected in this public domain is available in the Google Drive, and also is published in Elsevier Journal, Data in Brief, as the first version of nationwide open 3D soil database on Sri Lanka. So any of you all are interested, this data is available in the public domain. So this is all we have to say, and I am very much thankful for your patience. So thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that very interesting and informative presentation. Now the floor is open for the audience. If you have any questions, you can directly ask, or else you can send your questions to the chat box. Meanwhile, sir, that I have a question that you explained about many destinations that we use. I mean, we utilize in ecotourism, right, based on the soil, right? While explaining that, you said that we have plenty of peatlands, but we just discard waste for them, and we don't use. I mean, they are the soils that are used for inoculation purposes.
Yeah. For inoculants,
are the most underutilized landscape regions in Sri Lanka from an ecotourism perspective.
Actually, what we call in the mid-country, because they have been formerly used for tea cultivation and abundant. So there are many other crops that could grow on them, but proper programs has to be there, because you have to rehabilitate them, because those soils are eroded and there is not much topsoil and their fertility is very less. So there are a lot of that kind of underutilized land, and we have to identify the crops that we can go there, and those cannot be just developed by individual people, because this has to be a collective effort. So all this, the data is available in this database, and you can also look at what is the present vegetation there, and if you can develop that or not, if you can go for other crops which are suitable for those areas, because it's a matter of matching the crop requirements with the soil requirements. So the soil data is there, and a lot of these crop requirements are there. So it's a type of matching them. And if you have a cash crop that is going to give much more revenue, of course, then you can spend some time to improve the soil so that the crop could be grown. So there are a lot of companies now taken up these lands and doing many kind of different developments for certain crops. So they are all there. It could be used, but some leadership should be there to use this information.
So in that,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, you can proceed, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for your inspiring presentation. You took me to 1984, where I was a student learning from you when I was in final year in 1984 after you came from Hawaii with your PhD. So you took me back to 1984. And today you demarcated another trail. We have Pico Trail in Sri Lanka. So you have now found another trail we can declare as a soil trail of Sri Lanka. So then I have a small clarification. While Alpitia area being one of the tourist destination where the soil is predominantly anti-soil or regosol, was there any genuine reason not to include it
No,
in
we
your
can. No, it's. I included only. There are many others I know I should include, but for a tour of a given time, we can select from the database the most important one. And if you want to add a few more, that could be added with a little bit extra time. So we also have some good fields in the eastern region we can show. So it's a matter of the time, how long a group is prepared to stay. We can include, yeah, this is a good soil, and we can show them the new these giant guava cultivations and how they are doing all this irrigation, and that's a developed area.
And similarly, sir, series in Singharaja, something like that.
Because it has this bracken fern, and that's a characteristic place you can show with the bracken fern. The organic matter has accumulated, and we can show that also when bracken fern is removed, how the soil is changing. Yeah, there are many we don't include, and we can always, of course, the soil information is available. Depending on how much time available, can take to many other places. Sure, I agree.
So we have received another question from Ms. Geetika Rupasinghe. Among many comments of appreciating that this is a great talk, right? The question is, sir, can't we include paddy growing soils as it shows a distinct drainage class?
The thing is, as I showed you, that diversity due to drainage is in a short range. So that is the drainage differences does not come at the higher levels of the soil classification system. So in the healthy soils, as you showed, the wet drainage class will go, which is the low humic clay soils, to aquals. So it is the same kind of soil order, same characters, but just the color changes and it becomes reduced thing. So we can show it because they are close by. You don't have to go to higher to other places. But of course, for this ecotourism group, paddy cultivation in many other countries, little bit away from Asia, is also in highland. Okay, so if you want to show them, we can include that, but it is close range diversity, so it will be in the same soil order, but below it's just at the sub border or family level. We can surely we can include. Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. We've got another. Is there anybody? All right. And we've got another question from a landscape architect from Ms. Shireen Amedra. As a landscape architect, soils are looked at from not only the series aspect but the biota as well in the OHOT. Your comments, please. She's asking your comments on that statement.
Not much information is available on soil biota because we have very few soil microbiologists in the country, and it is a very diverse, as I told you, that there is more life inside the soil than on the land or on the soil. We have very few information. Even in this database, we have only physical and chemical. I hope somebody would have pointed out there is no biological data because we don't have expertise and we have very less knowledge. But maybe now there is knowledge, but those are also concentrated to uh, certain kind of marshy vegetation and certain vegetation spots. In the highland soils, we have very few knowledge about the soil microbiology, and also that is why we have very few applications. Now, if you go to a country like India, every state they have so many microbiological mixtures they will try to sell you. By applying it, it will improve the soil conditions. So actually, lack of knowledge is the major problem to do that. Of course, that's a very good question. So I hope there will be more microbiologists or soil biologists coming and doing that. So, because we could only find people who characterize the physical and chemical properties and not the biological properties.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. But when we teach, we do take the entirety of the microbiology for landscape architecture. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And finally, sir, what message would you like to give the policymakers and future scientists of Sri Lanka regarding the importance of Sri Lanka's soil heritage?
Yeah. The message is that enough information is there, and like there is a lot of groups on bird watching now coming into Sri Lanka. A lot of groups I know, and a lot of hotels encourage that. A lot of groups come into and join in the tea gardens because they are well organized. So even if you look at our heritage, even the archaeological faculties, so many they are archaeological, and there is no very much organized archaeological tour. You know, there's so much of resources, archaeological resources. People are interested in looking, but there should be an organized manner of showing them. So that is what I am showing. All this information is there, and I think the Soil Science Society of Sri Lanka is the place where they have to take the leadership and organize these things with other groups, because there are a lot of soil scientists who want to come and experience these tropical soils. Mainly, there are a lot of opportunities in these areas. So it is a matter of nobody showing interest and organizing. Otherwise, we have, like the biodiversity, we have a lot of diversity. It should be covered in a short time. That is what I am trying to bring in my message. They have to not go for very long days to look at these things. So, I mean, I don't know who is going to take the leadership, but it should come in an organized manner, because my experience shows it's very difficult to go and look at soil at a place like a road cut, because a lot of onlookers get interested and they come there. Even with the students, we have this problem. They come there and they're curious why we are looking at this soil, whether there are gems in this soil, and they will tell the landowner they are looking at your soil because the government is going to take it up. So we have to find specially the government farms or some place that are secure for these programs. We have enough soil profiles in these government farms, research institutes, those places. So that is there, but the organizing part, we are very much lacking. That is the problem.
So thank you very much. And we have Vasant Punchiheva is raising a hand. We can give the opportunity to him.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, you were talking about the vegetation, tourism, and all that. I know it's there in the book, printed book, but for tourism, if the vegetation, the ground cover could be related to the soil, I think it will be more interesting for tourists because what they see is more than a soil pit, just the vegetation on top. And as a resource for this, Dr. Jayasuri, Magdan Jayasuri, who passed away just, I think, about a year or two ago, and he has compiled a very nice little book published by EML Consultants, a private company in Peradeniya, called Diversity of Terrestrial Vegetation in Sri Lanka. And he has identified 72 forest types. Very interesting little book. And I can send you the link or the picture of this book to Dr. Mapa or anybody who is interested. And also, there's three fairly large books. Each one is about 300 pages. Now it's in the third volume. Illustrated Field Guide to the Flowers of Sri Lanka. And, that's a very, very, very highly illustrated, the picturesque book, the Illustrated Field Guide. And particularly the Dr. Jayasuri's vegetation diversity of terrestrial vegetation in Sri Lanka, which describes 72 forest types, with the plant could easily be combined to the soil diversity. And this is suggestion, but it works.
Yes, Dr. Punti, these are different groups. Normally, a group of foresters or forest scientists will like to come and look at these different forests. And maybe then the major thing is they will look at different forest types, and they can look at the soil at very lower level because their interest is more on the forest. And like flowers, there are groups who are interested in looking at native flowers. So those are different groups. So different depending on their interest. The major part will be that. So here there is, but also there is the landscape and the vegetation also could be shown. But if we start more vegetation, then the main interest will be dropped. So we have to have groups who are interested in these different things, because a bird watching group will be more interested in looking at birds. So like that. Sure, the vegetation is also like our biodiversity. We have forest diversity, vegetation diversity. So there are different groups that will be interested. So it should be organized in that manner so that it will be successful. We cannot maybe show everything in to one group depending on their interest. I take your point, and then some group has to be showing those interests and getting, because the Soil Science Society in other countries, when they have their annual sessions, they are always interested in going on a field tour. So when we have this in our country, we also have seen their interest is coming and looking at soils in our country. So like that, we can organize some tours, like the Forest Society or something can organize such tours. I think that is the best way to do that, I think.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Eva, for that.
Yeah.
And with the interest of time, I think
Yeah. So,
anybody
Okay,
else?
good luck.
Thank you. So we have come to the conclusion of today's highly informative and insightful session. Right? As the Secretary of the Section B of SLAS, it's my privilege to extend our sincere gratitude to Emeritus Professor Ranjith Mapa for sharing his vast knowledge, professional expertise, and valuable perspectives on Sri Lanka's soil and soil diversity and its potential applications in ecotourism, innovation, and environmental sustainability. Your presentation has undoubtedly broadened our understanding of the importance of soil landscape systems, not only in agriculture and environmental management, but also in creating sustainable and innovative opportunities for national development. I would like to express our special appreciation to our President, Dr. Madhusha Sudasinghe, for her guidance, leadership, and dedication in organizing this program. Our sincere thanks are also extended to the President and Council of SLAS for their continued support and commitment towards promoting scientific knowledge, dissemination, and professional engagement. Finally, I would like to thank all our valued participants for your active participation and engagement, which greatly contributed to the success of today's webinar. Thank you once again, and we look forward to your continued participation in our future programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nishadi, for the trouble. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, sir.
Okay.